Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I'm coming to you from the UK. Today is Sunday, it's the 28th of March 2021. Sorry, I had to think about that one. I'm so happy that you're joining me today to talk about some knitting and yarn and anything to do with any of those things. If you're watching for the very first time, then a huge welcome to you. I really hope that you will enjoy this show. And if you are coming back, thank you so much for being a regular viewer of this podcast. Alright, so I wanted to do a bit of admin, but I'm already dying in my sweater. So I'm going to talk about this sweater first and then take it off because I am really warm. So for finished objects, ta-da, here it is. Here is the sweater that I've talked about for such a long time, that I started on Christmas Eve and I finished it like 10 days ago, I believe. Last time I podcasted, it was still drying because I had blocked it and everything, so I couldn't show it to you then, but here I am, I'm wearing it. This is the Vana sweater or Vana pullover, which is spelled V-A-N-N-A, and it is a Danish design from a kit company called Kit Couture. I've talked about this at length in every podcast since December, so you can go back and listen to all of the details. Essentially, it is a stranded colorwork all over alpaca garment. So this is 100% alpaca, and this is also why it is really toasty. It is knit at a really tight gauge of about, I think, 29 or 31 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches. And because it is double knit essentially by doing stranded colorwork, it is very cozy, but I love it. So what can I say about it? First impressions. I've worn this quite a bit, especially when it was a bit cooler, and it is really comfortable. I really like it. I was worried that the alpaca would be scratchy or uncomfortable, and it really isn't. It's really quite soft. It's holding up really well. It's kind of nice and drapey, so I'm really happy with the sort of fabric and fabric content that I got from this garment. I will say, although I did alter the neckline a little bit, the neckline is usually double the height, so it really stands up, and I tried to make it shorter, and I also did some decreases. The whole neckline thing is still not perfect. I mean, this doesn't have a front and back really. It doesn't have any shorter shaping or anything like that. I think it is just designed to be kind of oversized and baggy. So I'm not sure if you can tell, there's a bit of like bagginess up here, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but again, it is a cozy, oversized sweater, so I think for that, it turned out pretty well. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I pretty much followed the instructions for this for once, which is unheard of. That does mean that my sleeves turned out a bit too short, which is a bit of a bummer, especially because this is worked bottom up, so there's no proper way of lengthening the sleeves unless I am willing to undertake a lot of surgery, which I'm not doing. This is really warm anyway, so what I tend to do is actually pull up the sleeves, so it is fine. But yeah, it is done. The Vana sweater, which was definitely one of those huge epic colorwork projects that I'm not really wanting to repeat right away, but it was really fun, but it was just such a long process. It is finally done, and I'm very excited about it being done. So that is my first finished object of the week, and now I'm going to get changed. And we're back, and I'm wearing another cardigan that I finished. This is the Idun cardigan. I hope I pronounced it better this week. Thank you for those of you who told me how to pronounce the Icelandic word. This is a cardigan pattern by Raga Knits. It is a free pattern on knitty.com. And I talked about this last week as well. I basically was just looking for a sort of top-down sweater or cardigan with a colorwork yoke that I could use for some let lopi yarn that I got specifically for a garment like this. So when I found a free pattern that was off Ravelry, I was really excited about that. The downside of the pattern was that in terms of the sizing and especially sort of the measurements provided, it wasn't like there just wasn't a whole lot of detail, so I was missing desperately the yoke depth, which just wasn't stated, which is a bit of a bummer. But again, it is a free pattern, and the pattern itself and the finished cardigan I think is really lovely. What I did is I only used really the numbers for the yoke and the yoke chart, and then I think the cardigan in the pattern does more of like an A-line sort of thing. It's much more oversized and long, and I just then kind of did my own thing, and I was already playing yarn chicken because originally I had bought a main color, this blue, and then 2 contrast colors, but I decided to only use one. So I definitely just didn't have enough yarn. So last time I showed this to you, I think I had both sleeves and the body on the needles, and then I just kind of played yarn chicken, and I used every last scrap of yarn, which is also very satisfying. I have, I think, like 5 meters of the blue yarn and 2 meters of the turquoise left, and that's it. Which again, I'm really happy to be using up yarn and not having like all these odds and ends and balls of leftover yarns flying around. So that's good. So it's done. It is a steek cardigan, so I knit it as a jumper with a steek panel, and then I cut it open, picked up stitches, all of that. It still needs buttons. I have made buttonholes for this one, and I'm going to see if I actually need the buttons. If you've been watching for a while, you know that I tend to wear my cardigans open all the time. So most of the time I don't even bother putting buttons or buttonholes on anything, but I decided for this one to include some buttonholes, and then I can just see and decide if I want to add some buttons as well. Yeah, because I was running short on yarn, again, I have very short sleeves. Well, they're kind of 3/4 length sleeves. But I like that. Again, it just, with a baby and with the lifestyle that we lead, I find it really good to have cardigans that I can just check on. But, you know, I don't have sleeves that are in the way. I can just pull them up really easily. And again, it's a warm sweater. And I just seem to be one of those people. I think there's 2 kinds of people. The ones that always need really long sort of sleeves, and then the ones that always pull them up, and that's me. So I'm really happy with this garment. I wore it first, and then I blocked it, and now I'm wearing it again, and it is much nicer now. It is knit out of Let Lopi yarn, which is an Icelandic brand, so this is not a soft yarn. This is a very sort of workhorse yarn that I think a lot of Icelandic people actually use just as an outside layer, so they would wear this just when they go out instead of a proper sort of winter coat or anything like that. And that's sort of the idea that I had, except mine is too short to be that, because again, I was playing yarn chicken. I know I could have just ordered like 2 or 3 more balls and made this exactly what I had in mind, but I was more focused on getting it done, and it's a good sort of top layer. So I think now in spring, when it gets proper warm, it'll still be nice to just pop this on. It's probably not going to be sort of the deep winter cardigan that I once had in mind, but I can always knit another one. This yarn is again incredibly affordable. It's a really good value for money, I would say. So if you don't mind it being a very, very sheepy, rustic yarn, yeah, I would recommend it. And I knit this to replace a jumper that I kind of felt it, and it just was a little bit too small. And I remember I wore that much more than I thought I would. So I'm going to see how I go with this cardigan, and if it turns out to be a staple in my wardrobe, I might as well just make another one in the winter or something. Yeah, so that is my FO number 2, and I have another one. And I was going to bring over sock blockers, and then I forgot. But I have finished my second rendition of the Smoky cable socks. So if you're new, just a quick explanation. I do design a couple of patterns every now and then, which can be found both on PAYHIP and Ravelry. The links for each of those platforms can be found underneath each of my videos. And we decided with the launch of this latest pattern, the Smoky cable socks, that we would run a knit along for all of my sock patterns, which is going to last until the end of April. So it is called the Happy Socks Cal, Happy Socks KAL, And you can basically join in anytime if you already have socks started from one of my patterns, or if you want to start them now. You don't have to finish them. Just post some photos on Instagram using the hashtag HappySocksKAL, and you'll be entered to win a prize at the end of the knit along. So for the knit along, of course, I wanted to knit something as well, so I decided to try a faded version of these socks. You may remember my first pair of these that I knit and used for samples was a very sort of classical version, so it was a grayish yarn with some contrast heels and toes. And this is obviously very different. It is speckled, it is different colors. I'm not 100% sure about the colors anymore, to be honest. And just for simplicity's sake, because I can't have too many balls of yarn lying around and do too complicated things with a baby, instead of proper fading it, what I did is I just kind of color blocked it. But I think it turned out alright. I think it looks really cute. So I have 2 finished socks. I did them with the afterthought heel as it is written in the pattern. They don't look completely pristine anymore because, yeah, I'm such a smart cookie. What I did is I finished these, put them on, and then started mopping our floors. So that was a stupid idea to do that with completely fresh socks that I hadn't even shown in the podcast. But there we are, they are done. And as we're talking about the knit along, just very quickly, I've been wanting to show this off for ages. A lovely viewer of the podcast, who is Deb Milstein, she got in touch with me and she offered up a prize for the knit along, as well as to send me some gifts. So Deb is Late Night Knits, and I hope you can see her logo and her web address here. I'm so professional at this, you guys. And she sent me this pin, which is super, super fun. And this is going to go onto a project bag immediately. And then this is hilarious. She came up with these coasters that have a red side and a green side. And the red is the most important one, obviously, because it says, "Quiet please, I'm counting." And then on the green side it says, "Talk to me, hashtag not counting." Which I think is hilarious. And I posted about this on Instagram. I was like, my baby doesn't listen to this. And she said how she came up with this idea with her family in mind. So I think that's hilarious. And in all honesty, just to be 100% transparent with you guys, I got this stuff for free, which is really kind. So thank you, Deb. And she's offering another one of these coasters, as well as one of her patterns. She has a lot of patterns on her website. As a gift to a winner of the Happy Socks Cal. So thank you, Deb. And again, if you've been posting about your socks, you'll already be entered to win. And I know not everyone uses Instagram. I have chosen not to use Ravelry for this or any future sort of knit-alongs. But if you don't use either platforms and you do want to participate, you can always just leave a comment and update us on how you're going with your socks, what you're doing, what you're knitting, and all of that in the YouTube comments. And I hope that way everyone can somehow participate a little bit. Whew, that was a lot of talking. Take away coffee cup today because we literally just got back and baby is sleeping for once. Anyways, let's talk about some works in progress. Where should we start? Let's start with some socks. Because I didn't show you these last week, but I have been knitting some socks. And I should apologize, I am sometimes rubbing my nose because I have hay fever. Spring has sprung and hay fever has sprung, and it is not fun, especially not in COVID times when every time I sneeze, everyone looks at me like I am, carrying death, but really I just have hay fever. So yeah, fun times. Anyways, I have finished a sock and I'm really excited about these socks. I haven't talked about this, but a while ago in, I don't know, February, January, Skandir posted that apparently you can get Knit Picks yarn shipped from the US to the UK without dealing with any sort of VAT or import tax issues. And I've heard that Knit Picks does that. They take care of VAT for you. But I wasn't sure if it was going to work. But when Ellie of Scandia said, yeah, it works, I was like, okay, and ordered some sock yarn, because you may or may not know that I am obsessed with this yarn, which is Knit Picks Felici. And for all of you in the US, I think Knit Picks is just a very sort of basic workhorse yarn. But for me, it is really, really exciting because I love the colors. I love a lot of what Knit Picks seems to be doing. I mean, I can't speak to them, and I'm obviously not an expert. I'm not paid to say this, and this is just something I've been looking at, and I've been seeing everyone with Knit Picks yarns. And I was lucky in the past to have a couple of friends who would send me Knit Picks yarn every now and then. But when I found out that I can order it now, I just ordered a bunch of self-strapping colorways. So they've been kind of hanging out in my living room, and as soon as I finish some socks, I cast on some strappy socks. So this is where we are. This is colorway Punchbag, and I have finished the first sock. I actually Kitchenered it last night. So I did a top-down sock with a 1x1 rib at the top, and then I've done a 3x1 rib, so knit 3, purl 1, knit 3, purl 1, and so on. And throughout the rest of the sock with a fish lips kiss heel. And what I do if I'm too lazy to do an afterthought heel and I don't want to interrupt like the strapping sequence on the top of the foot is I knit the heel from the inside of the ball, and that way, I mean, it looks kind of funky, but at least when you're wearing them, you don't really see a big sort of change in the color progression. So yeah, first sock is done, and I did some stress knitting last night. I was so tired, but I just really wanted to knit. And this is how much I got done, so I'm very excited about that. So, I mean, I'm about halfway to the heel, so that's good. And as per usual, I'm knitting on 2.25mm US size 1 needles. And I'm doing a 64 stitch sock because that is what fits my feet, and these socks will be for me. Alright, next up, I have 2 more projects to show you. I have, well, it depends on how you count. I keep saying I only have 2 active works in progress because I don't count blankets. But yeah, I have started a new blanket, and I am so excited about this. And did I really need to start a new blanket? No. Do I care? No. I was inspired to do this after I saw it on a German-speaking podcast by Sarah, who has the Sarah Linde podcast. Or Sarah Linde strickt? I'm not sure. Sorry, Sarah. It is a German-speaking podcast. It is hilarious. She's been doing a lot of test knitting for me. So I saw that she was working on a blanket which is called the Monster Blanket. And it looked so fun, and she said how she was just going through all of the minis like that, and I was like, okay, I want to do this immediately. So it is a pattern, quote unquote pattern. It is a German speaking designer who has just kind of posted a little video link on how she casts on this blanket. So I'm really sorry to all of my English speaking viewers, it's probably not going to be super helpful. But it is a free pattern, so I think I'm allowed to say that really what it is a corner to corner garter stitch blanket with an I-cord edging. So what I'm doing is I'm holding 3 strands of yarn together. I'm using 6mm needles, which these seem huge to me. I know a lot of people use bigger needles more often, but I never do. I mean, I knit a Lopi sweater on 3.5mm needles. So I just feel like, I don't know, I'm knitting with chopsticks or something. But yeah, I'm holding 3 strands of sock yarn together. 2 strands I'm always changing, so I'm just using whatever leftovers I have near me. And 1 strand I'm using this yarn because this is a sock yarn. This is Lang Yarn Jawohl, I think. And I have a sweater quantity of this, but I'm never going to get around to knitting it up. So I thought I would just use 1 solid color throughout the entire blanket, and maybe it'll give it sort of a bit more cohesiveness. So, you know, one color will always stay the same while the other colors will be completely crazy and all over the place. And yeah, so this is really, really basic. It is just, you know, you increase on each side and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm sorry about the ends hanging off there. They are all woven in. I'm using the clasped weft join, which I think is, I learned it from Louise Tilbrook, and she's got a YouTube video about it, I think. I'm not sure if she's the one who came up with it or if she's just the one who's done a bit of a tutorial. I'm not sure, I'm sorry. But if you Google clasped weft join, you will find it. But you can use a ton of other joins as well. It's just the one that I always do. I also did it with my color blocking socks, and that way you don't have to weave in any ends. You just kind of snip them off. So that's what I need to do here. And yeah, I'm just basically changing colors whenever I feel like it, whenever I run out of mini skeins. And this blanket eats up a lot of yarn. I'm really enjoying it. It is so much fun. The only thing that you shouldn't do is you shouldn't change your mind later about the colors, because I unraveled a real significant amount of this blanket once, and it took me forever because you have 3 strands of yarn, and unraveling those and then putting them back into ball form is a nightmare. So I would encourage you to either not care or think about your colors a little bit as you're working it, because unraveling this is terrible. But besides that, this is so much fun. I only started this about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago. And yeah, so here we are. That is my monster blanket. And I just have all these bags of leftovers and mini skeins. I have an entire basket here, so I'm just kind of trying to work my way through this. And while I'm using up a lot of it, I have a feeling I can probably knit another 1 or 2 blankets out of all those leftovers, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm definitely enjoying it, and this is just so squishy. I don't know. I think I've never knit with 3 strands at once. I've done a lot of double-stranded things, but triple-stranding yarn, it is so squishy and fluffy, and it feels really soft to me. So yeah, I love this. I love this so much. This is ridiculous. Alright, so last but not least, I have a completely different project to finish this episode with. So this has a bit of a long story behind it once again. This is Lamulgarn by Rauma. And I first saw this yarn in, 2018, I think. I went to Oslo for the first time with my friend Marion, and we went crazy for all the Rauma Finul. And they also have this lamb's wool, which is lovely. It's got a bit more yardage. It's a bit softer because it is lamb's wool. I mean, it is not, when I say soft, I don't mean the sort of superwash merino soft. It is softer for a non-superwash woolly Norwegian wool. And back then I got, I think, 2 50-gram balls to knit a pair of mittens. And I was home knitting those mittens later, and I was like, I really should have gotten myself a sweaters quantity. So 1.5 years later, we returned to Norway, actually 1 year later, for the Oslo Stricker Festival. And I actually planned to get myself a quantity of this yarn to knit a sweater. Picked a color, had it in the store, and then decided not to get it. And then last year, I finally, living here in the UK, I was like, I live in the UK now. I can order from Isolda and get free shipping. I finally got myself this yarn, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. And so I got myself this yarn without a real project in mind, but this is a light fingering weight yarn, which honestly for me, I think this is perfect. This could be my new favorite yarn. And I know I say this about a lot of yarns, but I really like it. It's 250 meters per 50 grams, so you don't need a whole lot of it. And I was thinking, what do I want to do with this? But it is just so perfect for color work. Somehow I couldn't not do color work. So I also dragged out the yarn that I had bought previously in Oslo for my mittens, which I eventually ripped, and I just ripped them back because they didn't fit. Anyways, that's a whole different story. I had these 2 colors, and I decided to knit a color work sweater. So I am really excited about this. I spent a lot of time looking at patterns and what should I do, and I don't want to always do the same thing. And then in the end, I went back to a staple for myself, which is the Strange Brew sweater by Tin Can Knits. So if you've been watching for a while, you'll have heard a lot of talk from me both about Tin Can Knits and more specifically about their Strange Brew. It is sort of a pattern that helps you design your own sweater. So it gives you all the numbers for 3 different gauges for a million different sizes, top down or bottom up, for a cardigan or a sweater with short rows, without short rows. It gives you everything you need, so then you just make up your own sweater. You can either use some pre-made charts that they include, or you can just pop in your own charts. And I think this is my 5th or 6th Strange Brew sweater. I've knit a baby one for my son. I've knit quite a few for myself. And they always turn out different because you can just use it as a template and then do your own thing. So for this one, I am obviously using the sock weight instructions because I am using a sock weight or a fingering weight yarn. I was really smart. My son was finally sleeping in his crib once in the morning. And I decided to do the ribbing. And it felt a little bit small. And when he was just waking up, I realized that I had actually used the decay weight instructions. So I got to undo all of my ribbing and then do it again. But yeah, who cares? I'm now very, very much enjoying this garment. You can see I did kind of 3 charts. I think this top one was in the pattern, and these ones I kind of made up myself. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I have knit so much, including a ton of increases and stuff since I think it's going to be fine. I think I like it. So I'm done with the color work now, and I'm just knitting for a little bit longer, and then I can split for the sleeves. Tin Can Knits provides short rows. I think they do them after the color work, but I did them throughout the color work. So throughout all of these bands, I added in some sneaky short rows in the back. So in the back, the color work is just spread out a little bit more, and I think it'll give this sweater a nice sort of dip in the neckline, which, oh, I love this already. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. And another thing that I'm doing, which is very, very strange for me, I don't know why. Oh yeah, I remember why. I cast the neckline on with smaller needles, as you do, and I only had wooden needles because I have one set of sock needles in, is it the Symphonies? Some wooden needles because I bought them once to knit on the plane. And I really enjoyed working on wooden needles for once, and I never really knit with wooden needles ever. But I think it may have been the yarn combination, but I really liked it. So I got myself some 3mm, I think these are the Rose Cubics, so they're sort of cubic shaped wooden needles, and I'm really enjoying them. They're really relaxing, and I think they just work really well with this yarn. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with me. Who would have thought? But I'm working with wooden needles for once. And I'm actually doing the same for my blanket because I have, I think, the Knit Pro Zings in this size, and they were just so like, they're making really metal sounds when I was working the blanket, and it was really not relaxing. So I have 2 projects on wooden needles now, which is crazy, but I'm enjoying it. So yeah, that is it in terms of my knitting. So if you want to stick around, all that's going to come is some general chatter about life. And if you're not interested in that, I will see you next week. So what's been happening? Well, for one, I decided to record today because very, very excitingly, I'm such an adult now. I get excited about the fact that we get roofers coming tomorrow and our leaky roof is going to be hopefully fixed. Yeah, so that's happening tomorrow. That's been sort of an ongoing battle for a couple of months because apparently roofers don't want to fix a roof, and it's been kind of complicated. But long story short, our neighbor is, I think, doing the majority of the work. So I'm sat here in our living room and we have our patio and everything leading out to the garden right there. And he's going to build up like a roofing tower and ladders and all sorts of stuff out there just in time for Easter tomorrow. And so I thought I would get in the podcast now because he said it'll take at least a week, but he only really knows what he's in for once he gets up there. So who knows? And I imagine it's all going to involve a lot of noise and a lot of things happening and possibly a lot of people like right in front of our window, and I have a baby. So all of that is not really conducive to podcasting. So all that to say, we're getting our roof fixed. I'm incredibly excited about it. And I have no idea when I'll get to podcast again because, yeah, as I just mentioned, who knows what's going to happen with that. But all fingers crossed, please. We really need this roof fixed and it's supposed to be dry next week. We're supposed to have really lovely weather. So let's just all hope it goes well. I feel like our roof and possibly one more heater is like the last two things that need to be done in this house, and then we'll kind of be set for a while, which is great. And yes, I totally jinxed it now, I think, but who knows? Besides roofing issues, we've been doing a lot of gardening, which is really great. We have a huge garden. Honestly, when we rented this place, we only looked at it online, and then my sister-in-law, who is in the UK, came to look at it, and the pictures of the garden totally didn't do it justice, especially because the previous tenants, they just kind of didn't do anything in the garden. But we've been trying to very slowly, get it all turned into an actual garden, and it is just turning out much bigger than we thought. So we've planted a couple of vegetables. I've been doing a lot of flowers and planting spring bulbs and all this sort of stuff, which is really fun. I've always loved indoor plants. I've done a bit of like balcony gardening, so to suddenly have this huge canvas to play with is really fun, although it is also a lot of work and again not really the best thing to do with a baby, but we're definitely enjoying it. We have like, I don't know, so many daffodils out there and found the first tulips today. I've also been watching a lot of birds, so we've got like a bird feeder and everything now. We actually have a little bird's nest like right in some wisterias outside the window, which it is like 3 meters from the house, so I'm not worried about it, and it's just really nice to watch and hear the little birdies and everything. Yeah, so we've been doing a fair bit of that, which is good because, I mean, what else are you going to do in lockdown? We are slowly coming out of lockdown, I think, which is amazing. Fingers crossed it goes well. But, I mean, up until now, there are only so many things you can do and so many million walks you can take. So being able to do something different and do some planting and stuff has been really fun. Yeah, I'm not getting much knitting done at the moment. I mean, I guess it depends. I always knit a lot and I will always try to get even just 2 minutes in whenever I get the chance. But yeah, our little boy has been keeping me on my toes a lot. He's crawling, he is standing up, he is climbing onto everything, and yes, he is only 7 months old. He just turned 7 months last week. But apparently he needs to be grown up really quickly. So I'm spending most of my day chasing after him, which is also really fun. Yeah, so basically that is my life at the moment. I am not sure what else to report. Like I said, there's not that much that any of us are doing at the moment, I think. I'm really excited about our bank holiday weekend. So Kai will have 4 days off work. And I think we need it. And it'll be really nice. Yeah. So again, like I said, I don't know when I'll be talking to you again, but hopefully it'll be soon. I also thought about... I don't want to say recording a vlog because I'm not a vlog person and sometimes I don't really see the point. But I thought about if it would be handy to just, record little snippets of knitting every now and then, because it's really hard to find time to sit down, get everything together, and then quickly pack it away, because otherwise my baby will be all over the yarn and the needles on the projects, which we can't have. So I thought maybe I can try to just, record 5-minute bits about my knitting here and there and then put it together. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but I might try that. I think we'll just play it by ear and see what happens. But anyways, until then, thank you so much for joining today. I really hope that you enjoyed this podcast, that maybe you got some time to yourself to knit and have a beverage of your choice. And until I see you again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe, stay healthy, have a lovely Easter weekend if you celebrate, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye!